What's good, good people, and welcome to the Silly, Nerdy, Sometimes Wordy podcast. I'm your host, BK, and this is episode 4, highlighting women in the NBA and the NFL, and some shoutouts. How's everybody doing out there? Hope we're all doing well. Big thank you to all the listeners out there. Let's get into it. This week, we are going to be highlighting women in sports. And I'm going to be focusing in on women in the NBA, the National Basketball Association, and the NFL, the National Football League. And I'm also going to give some shout outs to women that cover this sport from a reporter's perspective, an analyst's perspective, a broadcaster's perspective. And just want to give them shout outs to those women that particularly that I know, I follow their work, and some of them have been doing it for a long time. Some of them more recent, but this is part of the nerdy part of the podcast because I know who these people are in terms of their work covering the league, the teams, the sports. So going to give them some shout outs towards the end. And the reason I'm focusing on women because this month of March that we're in, it is Women's History Month. So, therefore, the focus on women and just shouting them out and, giving them some love. Okay. Starting with the NBA, the National Basketball Association, and we want to focus on the coaching level on the court. There are some assistant coaches that are women in the NBA that I will get to. But let's start with the woman that started it all, the first time female full-time assistant coach in the NBA on an NBA coaching staff. And that is the great Becky Hammon. She was first hired back in 2014 on the San Antonio Spurs coaching staff. She had a long, successful career as a player in the WNBA and in college before that. Becky went straight from retiring right into coaching on Greg Popovich's staff. He is the head coach of the San Antonio Spurs. He's been coaching for a long time and been really successful. He got 5 championships? Yeah, great players. Anyway, Becky Hammon, she has been coaching there for a long time. Let's fast forward to 2020. We all know what that year was like. And some of you may remember what the NBA did to get their games played was they decided to have this bubble where anybody that was in the bubble obviously was players, league office people, and some media. And focusing on Becky Hammon, one game, regular season game, Greg Popovich got his second technical foul. And if you know what a technical foul is in the game of basketball in the NBA or college, once you get your second technical foul, whether you're a coach or a player, you get ejected from the game. And that is exactly what happened to Greg Popovich in a game in 2020 versus the Los Angeles Lakers. And Becky Hammon got the nod to coach the rest of that game. That technical foul came late in the second quarter, about less than 4 minutes to go. And as a result of that, Becky Hammon got to coach the rest of the first half as well as all of the second half. And then Becky Hammon, as a result of that, she became the first ever female active head coach to coach a game in the regular season as a woman. So that was a pretty big deal. She also coached an NBA preseason game as well. And she also got to coach the team, the San Antonio Spurs, in NBA Summer League. And so that was pretty cool. Let's move forward with Becky Hammon. So recently in this 2021-2022 NBA coaching cycle, firing and hiring of coaches, reportedly, she actually got to interview for 2 NBA head coaching jobs. That is the Orlando Magic and the Portland Trail Blazers. Obviously, she did not get hired but the fact that she still got to interview for those roles, I think it's pretty good. It's a little bit of progress. So hopefully more progress will be made in the years to come. And also recently, Becky left the San Antonio Spurs. She accepted a coaching position with the Las Vegas Aces of the WNBA, Women's National Basketball Association. And she went right into that role and won the whole thing. Her first season as the head coach, her team won the WNBA title. They are the 2021-2022 WNBA champions of the WNBA. So first season you win a championship. That's pretty great. So Becky Hammon is doing good things, and Becky Hammon paved the way for other female to become NBA assistant head coaches and hopefully eventually head coaches one day. And now we're going to focus in current active female assistant coaches that are full-time on NBA coaching staff right now during this current season. And right now, there are 5 of them. And I'm going to shout them out. And I'm going to include a disclaimer here to apologize if I mispronounce any of these names. Starting off with Jenny Boak. She is on the Indiana Pacers coaching staff. Lindsey Harding, Sacramento Kings. Christy Tolliver, Dallas Mavericks. Sonia Raymond, Memphis Grizzlies. And Teresa Witherspoon, New Orleans Pelicans. All of these women are full-time active assistant coaches in the NBA right now. Let's stay on the court and focus on the refereeing, the officials. Right now, there are 8 women that are active referees in the NBA. And if you ever watch NBA games right now or the last, 5-10 years, you'll see women that are referees in the NBA. And we're going to shout out the current 8 women right now that are on NBA referee crews. Starting off with Lauren Holtkamp, Simone Jelks, Ashley Moyer Gillich. And I believe specifically for her, she has a husband that is a referee on the college level. However, I do not know the conference that he coaches in, but how cool is that? They're both referee. Moving on, Natalie Sago, Jenna Schroeder, Daniela Scott, Cheryl Flores, and Danica Mosher. All 8 of these women are active NBA referees. So if you're watching an NBA game, you see those women, good job to them. Okay, let's move on to the ownership level with the different teams as well as the league office. Women that are working in those areas. So this is a different level. Let's move off the court and let's say to the owner's box or ownership box, the front office box. Starting off with Laura Price. She is the Chief Operating Officer of the Philadelphia 76ers, Eastern Conference. Jillian Zucker. She's the President of Business Operations for the Los Angeles Clippers, Western Conference. Cent Marshall. She is the CEO of the Dallas Mavericks, Western Conference. Melissa Proctor, Executive Vice President and CMO of the Atlanta Hawks, Eastern Conference. Martina Kolokotronis. She is the COO of the Sacramento Kings. And Jeannie Buss. She is the president and owner of the Los Angeles Lakers, Western Conference. Jeannie Buss is probably the most visible woman, one of the most visible women in the NBA. Her father owned the team for a very long time, And during that time, she was very much involved with the team at different levels within the organization. And unfortunately, when her father passed away, she got the nod to be the lead majority owner of the Lakers. And so she's been doing a pretty good job of that. And also, I guess many of you may have known that she famously dated Phil Jackson for a number of years. That is Jeannie Buss, president and owner of the Los Angeles Lakers. One last one, and this one, Amy Brooks. She works on the NBA league office level. She is the president and team marketing and business operations and chief innovative officer for the league office. So, big shout out to all of those women that are doing those things, big things on those teams, and as well as in the league office. Now, let's move on to the NFL, the National Football League. And we're going to start with the ownership level. However, I'm going to be going in and out of team levels as well, ownership slash team and league office. Now, in terms of ownership, owners in the NFL, there are multiple women. Some of them have majority ownership of their teams or the clubs, as the commissioner likes to say, and it just varies. So like I said, some of them have majority ownership stake of the team. Some of them co-own the team with their husbands. Also, some of them own the team with their siblings, their brothers, or their kids. For instance, the Denver Broncos, that organization was recently sold and purchased by the Walton family, specifically Rob Walton. And I'm going to highlight a couple women that are within the ownership group. Starting off with the daughter of Rob Walton, Carrie Walton Penner. She is within that ownership group of the Denver Broncos. And Melody Hobson, which I'm going to highlight two African American women that are within this ownership group. Melody Hobson is one of them. And Condoleezza Rice. That's right, Condoleezza Rice. That Condoleezza Rice that worked for the State Department served in service for the United States. She is in this ownership group, and from what I know, she's a big football fan. She's been a big football fan for a long time, and I believe her team growing up, was the Cleveland Browns. She loved the Cleveland Browns, Jim Brown. But she is in that ownership group for the Denver Broncos. Let's move to the league office. This one is an important one. I think a lot of you have seen her more so recently this past NFL season. Dawn Aponte. She is the Chief Football Administrative Officer, League Office. And I'm going to just talk about what her description, her responsibilities are. So she is responsible for driving football operation initiatives, facilitating communication and management of the day-to-day operations, and assisting in building relationships with club owners, presidents, and executives. Now, the reason I wanted to bring up Dawn Aponte, because during that Buffalo Bills, Cincinnati Bengals Monday Night Football game this past season, I'm sure a lot of you know, when that injury happened, the Damar Hamlin injury happened, unfortunate injury happened, we all know, everybody was praying for him to get well, and thankfully he has. But if you were watching the ESPN broadcast, you saw someone there in the picture a lot. And that was Dawn Aponte. And if you were listening specifically when Adam Schefter was speaking from time to time, She was speaking to the league office, and she was communicating with the league office to figure out, what they were going to do. Are they going to continue the game? Are they going to delay, let them warm up and continue? So she was in communication with the league office. Most likely, I'm pretty sure she was in communication with the commissioner as well as other executives in the league office, trying to determine what to do and how to proceed for this unprecedented thing that happened on the field with this player. So if you go back, or if you kind of remember seeing a woman in the shot when Lisa Salters was reporting, she was the one communicating with the league office, and as well as she was the one going to the teams, to the head coaches, telling them, hey, this is what going on. And ultimately what happened was they didn't finish the game. So I just wanted to point that out. So if you go back and look at the film, or just, I guess you can YouTube it or whatever, or Google it, but she was the one that was in communication with the league office. So she's, a woman in a very, in a good position. I wouldn't say powerful position, but a leadership position. So at that time, figuring that stuff out. So I thought that was important to bring up. Okay. Another woman in the league office I want to highlight. I think she has a pretty cool and an important job, busy job at times. Let's talk about Stephanie Durant, like I said, in the league office. And this is where it's going to get, not yet, but Stephanie Durant, she is the vice president of game operations. Her responsibilities include monitoring stadium preparations for all team and NFL needs, such as building facilities, field, coaches, booths, video locations, locker rooms, football technology, and more. Durant is the main point of contact in the game day operations center when all games are being monitored during the season. She advises senior executives from the clubs, the teams, and the NFL on game day related matters. She also oversees participating team operations for the Super Bowl, including identifying practice sites, team headquarters hotels, spillover hotels, team logistics, and stadium operations on game day. I wanted to highlight her because on game day, she's pretty busy in constant communication with all the teams. And then once the Super Bowl rolls around, she is apparently handling a lot of the logistical things for the teams in terms of getting all of that together. So I thought that was important and cool to highlight. Okay, let's move on and let's go back to the team level. We're gonna focus on Sarah Thomas, and not the team level, the referee level. Sarah Thomas, she was the first female ever to be hired by the NFL as a referee, and she's the first woman to officiate a Super Bowl. The recent Super Bowl in 2021, that Super Bowl included the Kansas City Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That was the one run by the Buccaneers, and Tom Brady, he got another one. What can you do? She was a referee in that Super Bowl, so pretty cool. And there have been other women referees since Sarah Thomas, including recently, I believe there have been 2 African-American female referees that have recently come into the league on a referee level. So big shout out to them and others. Let's go on to the team level. And these are just going to be various roles, different roles. Chanel Smith Walker. She is the team's photographer for the Carolina Panthers. Sarah Douglas Morgan. And this is a big one. She recently became the Las Vegas Raiders president of the team. And she is the first African-American woman to do so on an NFL team. So, big deal. Let's move on to the coaching level. Jennifer King. She became the first female African American assistant coach in the NFL in 2021. And the position she's coaching is the assistant running backs coach. And the team that she's doing this on is the Washington Commanders, NFC East. So big shout out to Jennifer King doing big things on the Washington Commanders coaching staff. And let's also stay on the team level. And we're going to be looking at the scouting level. Ashton Washington. She is the first full-time female scout. Well, she became the first full-time female scout. And recently, she's moved into, I could say, promoted in 2022 into a new role as player personnel coordinator. And this is all Ashton Washington. She's doing all of this for the Chicago Bears. And I'm a Green Bay Packer fan, so the Bears are, yeah. But, they're doing big things. So she's doing scouting. So, she's part of the draft process as, scouting these players all during the year. Ultimately, they'll, draft whoever they draft at number 9 overall, as well as the rest of the draft picks. So those are women in the NFL. And let's stay in the NFL for a little bit longer. I want to highlight something that the NFL has been doing for a couple years now, and I think this is really cool. And if you happen to be listening, and if you're a woman out there that maybe wants to work in the league one day, hopefully you can attend this. But the NFL has been doing this thing, this conference called the Women's Summit. This has been going on since 2016. This is basically a conference where all 32 teams are represented. The commissioner is there. They have speakers come in. They have the head coaches come in, GMs and other executives, and they have these breakout sessions. They have these speakers come. I believe Serena Williams was one of the speakers at the very first one. And this is a way for the NFL to get more women into the league at different positions, at different levels, whether you want to be coaching, whether you want to be an executive, referee, marketing, business, whatever it is, the league office. This is a way for the women to get together, to network, to meet with other women that are interested and women that are already in the NFL. And you do some networking, and who knows, a year or a couple months later, you may be working in the league for a team or the league office. And so this is a great way to do this. And so this has been going on for a couple years, and the commissioner is involved with this as well, along with different speakers from not only the NFL but different sports, men and women that come in and speak to these women. And it's, like I said, it's a good way for women to potentially have an opportunity for them to get in the league to work for a team or the league office. So I just wanted to highlight that. I don't know if a lot of you know that, maybe you do, but this is something that happens every year. I believe it happens around, I want to say Super Bowl week is when this conference actually takes place, I believe. Okay. And I think we're almost done here, folks. We're going to move on to the last part of the title, and that is the shout outs. So this is where I think the title of the podcast, the nerdy part, comes in. I'm going to shout out some women that cover the sport. Like I said, reporters, analysts, broadcasters, and these women have been working in the sport, some for a long time, some for somewhat a long time. And so I follow these women in their work in terms of what they do and how they cover the league, the NBA and the NFL. So I'm just going to shout them out and maybe say a little something about them. First, starting off, uh, let's talk. We're going to talk about Mina Kimes. I've I'm a big fan of hers. She's on ESPN. She is an NFL analyst for NFL Live. She also has a podcast of, uh, gosh, a podcast with her dog, Lenny. The Mina Kime podcast featuring Lenny. Anyways, she covers the NFL for ESPN from an X's and O's perspective, more so from an analytical perspective. So she puts the numbers with what's being seen on film, and she also is a writer as well. So she does a lot of different things, and the way she covers leagues is really cool, and it's just great to see it from a woman's perspective and how she goes about it, and the fact that she's never played in the league, but she watches a lot of film. She knows the coverages and the different strategies and things on the defensive line, the offensive line, not just the quarterbacks and the pretty stuff, but she talks about the stuff in the trenches as well, and the coverages and how the corners are playing, as well as incorporating the analytics, the statistics, the stats of these things to go along with this. And I think it's pretty cool. I think it's great what she's doing. So shout out Mina Kimes. Let's move on to Lisa Salters. She is a reporter. Now she does both. So you may know her. She is the lead sideline reporter for Monday Night Football for the last 10 years. She also is a reporter on the NBA side. So you'll see her during the NBA Finals. She's been doing it for a long time. She does interviews as well. Obviously, sideline interviews, halftime interviews with the coaches and or players, depending on it's NBA or NFL. So she's been doing it for a long time. So shout out to Lisa Salters. Let's move. And let me go back. Lisa Salters, she covers the stuff for the NBA, NFL for ESPN / ABC / Disney. Rachel Nichols, she covers the NBA. She's been doing it for a long time, just as long, maybe a little bit longer than Lisa Salters. She was working with ESPN, but not anymore. She's currently with Showtime Basketball, but she has been with NBC, I believe. She's been with TNT, with Turner Sports, ESPN, way back in the 90s. She's been doing it for a long time. I've loved the way she's covered the NBA. She's interviewed a lot of players. She has a lot of relationship with the league and the players. So she does a great job of covering the league. So she's on Showtime Sports. Shout out Rachel Nichols. Doris Burke, she works for ESPN. She does mainly NBA, and she's a former player, college basketball player herself, but she does games. She broadcasts games as an analyst, as a woman, and she does a great job of talking about basketball and coverages and pick and roll defenses and ball screens and just breaking down and matchups and how players are going about and transition. She does a great job of covering it from her perspective, and you wouldn't know the difference if it's a man or woman talking about it. So Doris Burke does great stuff doing an analyst for the NBA, and then sometimes a little bit of college basketball. Okay, other women. Melissa Stark, she's with the NFL Network, but previously she did do Monday Night Football a while ago, back when Monday Night Football was on ABC before ESPN got it. But she's done a lot of stuff for the NFL. Now she's with the NFL Network. She does the NFL 360. She's been a sideline reporter, and currently she does the sideline reporting for Sunday Night Football. She replaced the previous woman that was the sideline reporter for NBC. And her name escapes me right now, but she's been doing good stuff for the NFL. Pam Oliver, she's on Fox. She covers the NFL. Maybe she covers some other things, but I've seen her doing sideline reporting for the NFL on Fox for those late window games or 1 o'clock games for a long, long time. She was on the number one team for a long time, but obviously she has moved on to the number two team on Fox, but still does a great job. So that's Pam Oliver. Moving on, Erin Andrews. Speaking of, she replaced Pam Oliver being on the number one team on Fox. Erin Andrews also worked for ESPN a long time previously to leaving for Fox. She covered a lot of college football. She was on College Game Day. So she's been doing a great job covering the league. She does a lot of great interviews. I think she has her own podcast as well. Moving on, Stacey Dales. She is working for the NFL Network. She's a former college basketball player, I believe, for Oklahoma. I think she's Canadian. And she does a great job of reporting for the NFL Network. And yeah, she does good stuff. Covers she doesn't focus on one team. She does multiple teams. But yeah, Stacey Dales, NFL Network. Look her up. Stefania Bell, or if you ever listen to the 06010 podcast, fantasy football podcast on ESPN, Starfania Bell. She does great stuff as well. So she is a licensed physical therapist, which she's also happens to be in fantasy football, and she's on the fantasy football podcast, and she covers the NFL from an injury standpoint. Not only does she do NFL stuff, she does baseball injuries, basketball injuries. So when injuries happen, she's able to speak about the injury, particularly how the injury is and how to rehab it, and sometimes the time frame and specificity of things. So I think it's pretty cool. She's a licensed physical therapist, but she also plays fantasy football and baseball. And she's a woman doing it. She's been doing it for a long time. I feel like she was one of the first ones to be doing injury analysis as well as fantasy football analysis. So great skills to have. And these podcasts that I'm talking about, I'm just shouting them out because those are podcasts that I listen to, especially when football season comes around and in the off season. I listen to that podcast for my fantasy football teams. Future topic. All right. Cherie Burris. She is a recently new hire for the NFL Network, an African-American female reporter for the NFL Network. There are not a lot of those on the NFL Network, so I just wanted to shout her out. She's brand new. She just started in February. Been doing a great job covering the Ravens and other teams and talking about the Lamar Jackson contract thing that's going on. So just wanted to shout her out. She's brand new on the NFL Network, so good for her. Candace Parker, she's working for Turner Sports, TNT. She is also an active WNBA player right now. I would say towards the end of her career, but you can catch her Tuesday nights on TNT on their pregame and halftime and postgame coverage, sometimes Thursdays. She's a really great player, went to University of Tennessee, played for the Los Angeles Sparks for a long time, recently went to the Chicago team in the WNBA and won the title the previous year. I believe she's still playing. So Candace Parker does a great job of breaking down NBA basketball. Colleen Wolfe, she works for the NFL Network. I'll just say that she has a great energy about her when she's on screen, when you see her on set talking about the NFL, whether it's pregame on Thursday nights or during the off season. It's just a certain energy that she brings to the people there. It's a nice energy, and it's good to watch. Malika Andrews, she works for ESPN. She is a reporter. She's done a lot of NBA games, and she's a host. She's now the host of the NBA show, the NBA Today. She's relatively young, but she does a great job in handling all the things. So like I said, she does reporting for games, sideline reporting for games. She also hosts the NBA Today show with different analysts that include, as I segue to, Shine Ogumake. She is a current WNBA player, I believe, for the Los Angeles Sparks. She breaks down and covers the NBA as an analyst, as a woman. So she does a great job doing that. So Shanae Ogumake, big shout out to her, active NBA player and NBA analyst, just like Candace Parker, except they're just on different networks. Last person, Ramona Shelburne. She is a reporter for ESPN, reporter slash insider, I would say. You know, she covers the NBA in terms of reporting news, reporting trades or trade demands, free agent signings, and different news topics in the NBA, the National Basketball Association. And she does a great job of hosting, of covering the NBA as a mom also. And I could go on and on. There's other women that I didn't mention that I could, but that's all I'll say. Let me see some honorable mentions. Hannah Storm, Linda Cohn. There's one that covers the NHL. She does a lot of their games on TV. I can't think of her name, but she's relatively new to me, but she does a great job. I can't think of her name right now, but she does a lot of the NHL games. So, but anyways, I could go on and on about different women that cover the different sports. Oh, right. That is all I have today. Let's talk about a takeaway. My takeaway for this is to look up these women and see what they do in these different roles and just check them out, give them some love. I have these, some of the stuff I got from this stuff are in some articles, and I have a link to these articles in the episode description. So please check it out. My other takeaway is, although these two leagues, the NFL and the NBA, are mostly dominated by men, however, women play an important and vital role in these leagues as well. And just, yeah, I just wanted to just bring that to the attention. It's Women's History Month, but you shouldn't need a month to highlight women or other things for other particular months. I would just say that. And also, this is I'll say that this is something that all little girls of all backgrounds and ethnicities and races can aspire to be. If you're some little girl or someone in college or high school or middle school and you want to work in the NBA or the NFL, you can do it because these women have done it. So why can't you? Yeah, those are my takeaways. We're coming to the end. Please follow the show, give us a rating, subscribe, share with others. We're available anywhere you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Audible. So check me out on those places. Follow, subscribe. Appreciate it. And until next time, we'll talk soon.